Alright, good morning. I'm Aaron Heiser, Maker's Leather Supply, and in today's video we're going to talk about the Mailbag. We call it the Mailbag because the first couple I made, I stenciled the words U.S. Mail right on the front of them. This was a heat transfer right here that I got, and it was just ironed onto the canvas, but the bag is made of leather and canvas. There's the back side of it right there. It's got a really long shoulder strap so it can be cross slung. The bag is made of leather and canvas, and yeah, it's a great little project. It doesn't take a lot of time to make. You can easily make one in a day. I like it because it's kind of rugged. It looks real vintage, you know, even though it's new. Like, I would love to spill coffee all over this and drag it around on the ground for a while and stuff like that. This one's got a few tools I needed to bring over here with me. But anyway, the inside of it's just a plain bag. It has 3 snaps across the top, and then when you fold the top part over, you've got one locks fastener holding it shut there. Okay. This was part of our October mystery box that we just mailed out last week, and then we had to go to a trade show, so I'm just now getting to making the video on this. What was in the box was the template for the Mailbag. If you're looking for it on our website, makersleathersupply.com, that's exactly what we call it, is the Mailbag. M-A-I-L, not M-A-L-E. Because again, that's the first couple I made. I've given them away so I don't have them to show off, but I made a stencil, said U.S. Mail, and just block letters, and I mean, everybody loved it. But I do like the heat transfers. You can get those at craft stores and things like that. I've made a couple of different ones. That one obviously says has the Union Pacific logo, but I've made one that has like the old school Pinkerton Detective Agency logo, and I made one that had what was the other one I did? Anyway, I did another one. So anyway, so the template set is very simple. This piece gets cut out of canvas twice. This piece gets cut out of leather once. This piece gets cut out of leather, or sorry, yeah. Also once. This is the bottom of the bag. This is the back where the handle and stuff is sewn to. And then this right here is that top part of the bag where the snaps are, and we cut out 2 of these. In the kit was also a long, narrow piece of canvas that we're going to make our shoulder strap out of. I cut it down to 3.5 inches wide. The one in the mystery box was a little bit wider so people can cut it themselves, but that is 3.5 inches wide. I've got some other just canvas here to cut the bag pieces out of. I made this one. The one I'm going to make in today's video I'm doing for Janie Sue. She loves coffee, and I got like a coffee logo type thingy. Anyway, this is the one I'm going to make in today's video and finish, and that way Janie Sue can have it, and I love that it'll kind of look like an old coffee bean bag, you know, when it's done. So, without further ado, let's actually make this bag. This piece is already cut out 2 size because I had to cut it out so I could put it into the heat press and press the logo onto it. I've got some other ones here that I did, but I did the logos a little bit too big. Oh, that was the other one I did, was the Pony Express. So anyway, these logos turned out a little bit too big for the bag in my opinion, so they're not going to be used. That was when I was first experimenting. There's another copy of the Pony Express one I did. Kind of at the right size. Now I will warn you, if you do a logo or something and heat press something onto it, or paint something onto it, bring it down lower a little bit, because that part has to sew onto the top and that has to fold over and button down, and that'll put your locks fastener or button or whatever you use down into your logo. So bring your logo way down. You only need it to be at least 1/2 inch up from the very bottom there. So if you are doing any of that type stuff to it, you got to keep that in mind. I totally screwed up the first one, and yeah, it doesn't work very well now, because then I ended up putting the locks fastener too high, and then the locks fastener doesn't like to snap closed as easily as it should. So here I've just got some more canvas, and I'm going to go ahead and cut out one of those pieces. Let me bring the camera down so you can actually see my workstation. There it is right there. All right, so all I'm going to do, I've got a cutting board under here. I'm going to take that biggest piece of the template. It says Mailbag 1 of 4, cut 2 from 18-ounce canvas. This is 18-ounce canvas, also known as number 8 canvas. We do sell it at Maker's Leather Supply. It is way heavier duty than you will find in your average fabric store or anything like that. I mean, this stuff is great for bag making and things like that. I've made quite a few things out of it and I really love it, but it is super heavy duty canvas. A lot of the time what a local craft store or fabric store calls canvas, I don't even consider canvas. It's not heavy enough, I don't think. Okay. My blade on my knife's not very good, so I'm going to have to cut this a couple of times. I have learned always keep that blade closed and it won't get all nicked up every single time something hits it. So yeah, it's absolutely in terrible condition for canvas. It cuts leather great, but for cutting the canvas, it sure does need a new blade. Quilters and fabric people get on to me about how I handle this blade. That's okay. I've had multiple people that watched our friend's video say that, oh my gosh, I can't believe you've never cut yourself. Not yet. It's not that I have a disregard for safety, it's just that I guess I'm safe in my own way, I don't know. Anyway, alright, so I've got done with a piece of template there, and I'm just going to finish wherever this didn't get cut. Part of it too is that my cutting board is like 15 years old and it's pretty worn out itself. Alright, got it. Okay, so I can fold this up and get it out of my way. Now I can work on cutting some leather. Now in the kit we had a couple of straps. Set this over here. We had a couple of straps that are 1.5 inches wide. The reason they're 1.5 inches is because that's wider than any strap you'll need for the bag. Be very honest, our strap cutter has 1.5 inch blade settings in it, and so that's why we cut them this way. For this back up here. For this handle piece, you're going to use 1.25 inch strap, but for everything else, this piece, its other piece on the other side, this piece, and your big shoulder strap, you're going to need 1 inch strap. So if you don't have one of those handy dandy little wooden strap cutters, it would be worth your while to have one. They're absolutely amazing tools to have, and yeah. So anyway, we will cut those pieces here in a few minutes when I grab my strap cutter. But we also have to cut out the bottom of the bag right here. I'm going to use this area right here. I kind of like those scars right there. They're going to look cool in it. So we'll cut the bottom of the bag out right there. Like I said, I like the vintage look of this design, so it doesn't bother me even a little bit to have some scars and stuff like that in the leather. If I had a good brand on this piece, I'd use it. This is a like 5 to 6 ounce oil tan is all this leather is. There's the handle of my cutting board right there. Alright, so I got that piece cut out. I can now set this big old piece to the side. That's the only thing I need to cut out of it, I believe. Actually, no. The locks fastener reinforcement, this thing right here. Locks fasteners require a 3/8 inch hole to put them in. But right here, I use an 1 1/4 inch round punch and cut out a larger hole, and then I use the 3/8 punch in the middle of it, and it makes a nice little reinforcement. You know, I've never applied a locks fastener just to canvas. I'm not sure how well it would work, so that's what I do. I just like the idea that it's a little bit reinforced by the leather. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my 1 1/4 inch punch and my 3/8 punch, and it may take me more than one time to get it just right, as far as having that 3/8 one directly in the center of the 1 1/4 inch. Sometimes I can get it right in one whack, sometimes I have to make 2 or 3 of them. It's a tiny bit off center, but that'll be okay. Actually, now that I look at it in the camera, let's try again. We'll call that one a maybe. A lot of the time I'll set this on here and kind of stand up and really look down the barrel of it. Alright, second one's much better, so let's throw the first one away so I don't accidentally use it. Alrighty, now I've got to cut down my straps. Again, my strap cutter doesn't seem to be setting right here, so it may be outside on my other cutting table, and then I'll come back and we'll do the strap pieces. Okay, I found my strap cutter, and like I said, we've got 2 straps here. We need to reserve the longest one for the shoulder strap. So if one of them is grossly longer than the other, I mean, the shoulder strap on this bag is like 60 inches or something crazy like that. I'll measure it here in a minute. Anyway, these are both about the same size, so it'll be okay no matter which one I choose. But first thing I need to worry about is, again, this strap is 1.5 inches wide, but I need different widths out of it. The handle here is 1.25 inches wide, and it's about 12 inches long. It could be a little shorter, it could be a little longer, but you want to be able to hold it. So what I'm going to do is cut off a piece about 18 inches or so long out of this thing, and I'll split it down to the 1.25 inch width so that I can make that handle out of it. And I'll show you how we sew that in just a minute. Alright, so I'm going to set my strap cutter here to 1.25 inches. Hopefully it's got a sharp blade in it. I didn't even check. Yeah, it's not sharp, but it's sharp enough, I guess. Maybe. Alright. There we go. The blade definitely needs to be changed out. I'll do that in a minute. Also need to make it a little bit more narrow so it'll cut this well. Alright, so there was the 1.25 inch one, and then the rest of that strap can actually be turned into just 1 inch because this and this, and then even the other strap will all be cut to 1 inch wide. So I'm going to pause the camera right quick, and I'm going to change out this blade, and it'll make this a lot easier, so give me just a second. Alright, got me a fresh blade in here. This sucker's going to cut great now, guaranteed. So I've set it for 1 inch, and I'm just going to take and do the rest of this strap at the 1 inch mark. Look how much easier that is already. For people that have a hard time with the wooden strap cutter, it doesn't matter if it's this fancy one here or one of the Tandy ones or whatever. One of the biggest secrets I can tell you is pull on the strap that's finished, not the cutoff part. If you pull on the cutoff part, you're guaranteed that it's going to get off and not be a nice long straight strap. But if you pull on the finished strap, it'll run just straight as it can be. I've also got my thumb here making sure that it stays you know, against the wood down here. And I will say this, it's more difficult to do what I'm doing and cut a narrow strap to a more narrow strap than it is to just cut one of these straight off the side of leather. To start it off the side of the leather, you just got to make sure that you start with a good straight edge and work your way on it. But anyway, all right, so now that I've cut that down, I'm going to cut me out a couple of pieces of it. All right, so I need 2 of these, and again, this is a 1-inch wide. I made it easy like that. So all I have to do is mark how the where the ends are on this, and then I can just use my belt end punch. If you don't have a belt end punch, you can use the template itself and cut around the edges there. I'm looking for my scratch all here. So I'm just going to mark where these 2 ends are, and I'll grab my 1-inch punch, and I'll punch those ends. It is really nice to have tools like this. Again, they're not 100% necessary, but they're awful convenient when they're needed. With end punches, when I was first starting, you know, kind of collecting a good set of tools and stuff, I just started out with, I think, a 1-inch and a 1.5 inch, and that was all I had. And I mean, that worked great for me. I very rarely needed another size, but of course now I have all of them. So, I say all of them. I've got just about every one of them up to 2 inches, so it's pretty convenient, I guess. But 1 inch and 1.5 inch are definitely the 2 that I use the most. So I'm just making these 2 match here. There we go. There's those, and then I need to make that little strap right there. I don't have an actual how long that is right this second, so I'm just going to cut one out that's a few inches long. I don't know, we'll guess right here. It looks like it's about 5 or 6 inches, and I know that that will be long enough. But that way I can put the rest of this piece away for now, unless I need it again later. I don't think I will, but there it is. Actually, I will need it again to make these little pieces right here that hold the D-rings on. It just slides into that hole right there. So let me go ahead and cut out a couple of those, and then I can be, again, done with this piece. To make those, I usually just kind of fold it over itself, figure out what might be a good length, remembering that there's going to be a D-ring in there. I may have to shorten it later, but I know it's at least long enough. Like you've always, leatherwork, like woodwork, if you make it too short, you can't make it grow. So I'd rather err on the side of caution when it comes to length. But I have done it. I have tried to like make something that's just a tiny bit too short. The next thing you know, I'm stretching and stretching and stretching to see what I can get out of that leather, and that's not the right answer at all. So all right. Okay, let me roll this other one up so it's kind of out of my way, and we'll continue on with marking some holes and stuff in some of these pieces. And again, there's a bad spot right there in that. It's not going to hurt its structural integrity, so I'm still using it because, like I said, I love the classic, like, vintage look of this bag, and that's one of the appealing factors to me, is that it looks old and beat up. All right, so I cut my handle strap at 1.25 inches wide. So now I have my 1.25 inch strap punch. And I need it to be about 12 inches long. So I got me a ruler here, 12 inches, make a mark. It doesn't have to be exact, just 12-ish inches. I can usually judge 3 or 4 inches, but all right, so there it is. This will be our handle piece. Now the other thing we need to do is put some holes in these for our snaps. Okay. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take and mark where these holes need to be with my scratch awl, and then I'll actually poke the holes after I take the template away. That way I don't risk breaking my template, because it needs a larger hole in it than the template will allow for a hole punch to go through. Okay. For a line 24 snap, this is a 1/8 inch punch. That'll work just great. I could stack these on top of each other and punch all the holes, but there we go. All right. So believe it or not, we can already start assembling some things. Oh, no, we can't. I'm sorry. I said we were done cutting out of leather, but I forgot all about this whole dadgum piece. So, let's grab our leather. Cannot believe I forgot this. All right, so I've already got a straight edge right here. I'm gonna use it. Matter of fact, I'll use it with the longer side there. I'll just take my scalpel and get to slicing. I do want to make sure that I hold my template very still. If it moves, then my piece won't be as accurate as I need it to be. And especially when I'm doing symmetrical corners and things like that, I want that sucker as dead on as I can get it. There we go. Oop, almost. There we go. The leather's loose. Put it back down there in my pile. Looks good. Now, same thing here. I'm going to mark where my 3 punches are going to go. I will use a 1-inch oblong punch on this. But if you don't have a 1-inch oblong punch, it's not a problem to punch 2 holes and then just cut out the center in between them. There they are. Looking for my oblong. There they are. Got a lot of punches on this wall, so sometimes I can't find the one I need. There we go. Now we're ready for some assembly. So one of the first things I'm going to do is get this handle ready. Okay, and what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to go up about 2 inches on each side and make a little mark, and then I'm going to fold it in half like that, And I'm just going to sew it in half from that 2-inch mark to the 2-inch mark. And then it'll end up making a handle much like this. All right. It's just a real simple way to do this handle. Again, with the vintage look and everything, I didn't go crazy doing fancy stuff on it. I wanted it to look awesome and old school, like an old Pony Express rider might have carried the thing or something, you know. So, yeah, grab my ruler, make my 2-inch mark. On both sides, or both ends. I'm going to use a couple of clips to hold this thing together because a piece of double-sided tape just won't do it. This leather's a little bit more rigid than double-sided tape would allow as far as being able to hold this thing folded in half. So, got some clips out. I just want to make sure that I can still see that mark because I want to make sure that I sew it evenly, you know, towards each end. Otherwise, one end will be real big and then the other end might be smaller. So we're going to go over to the sewing machine, and the first thing I'm going to do is sew that in half. Then I'm going to go ahead and just install it on here by just kind of winging it and figuring out where I want it. There's no correct or incorrect measurement. What I'm going to do is sew it directly in between the slots that are already there. So I'm going to pause the camera and I'll set it up over there by the sewing machine, and we'll sew those two items right quick. And then we're going to put the D-rings onto this before we sew it to the piece of canvas. It just makes it all easier to do it in that specific order. So again, I'm going to pause the camera. When I come back, we'll be over there at the, I'm going to use a class 18 sewing machine. I could use a class 26, but since there's a lot more flat work to this bag, we're gonna do it on the 18. All right, folks, unfortunately, I'm actually going to have to shut this computer down for a little bit. It is using more battery than it's charging, and so I'm going to have to stop the video for a little while and let this sucker charge for me, and we'll make part 2 of this video later on. Thanks.